On today's Maker Mashup, our 2019 Holiday Guide. Today we're going to be talking about our holiday guide. Now, the purpose of this guide is to share with you the things that I have on my personal wish list, and I'm also going to share with you items I already own that you might be interested in. I found them helpful over the year working on my different projects, and I think that you'll find them helpful too. So take a second and click subscribe so you don't miss any of the new project videos. Now, I want to say that everything in today's video is my personal opinion and not sponsored in any way. All of the items you're going to see are either things that I want or things I've already spent hard-earned cash on. Now, I know that buying stuff for makers is tough. Let's face it, we buy stuff all the time, and when someone asks what we want for the holidays or a birthday, we all say the same thing. I don't know. So my hope is that this video sparks some ideas for you and has some things that you may want or has gifts you can give to makers in your family. So I'm going to break everything down by price range. We'll start with the big ticket items and we're going to work our way down to stocking stuffers. And I've included a link in the description to my blog which covers the items I'm going to talk about and some of the items that didn't make this video. So with all that said, let's get to work. Okay, so we're going to kick this off with our high ticket items. Now, we have a lot of items to cover in this video, so I'm just going to cover a few of these pretty quickly. Now, there's a lot of controversy in the 3D printer market. So many good printers that are starting to really make their way into the market, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. One of the ones that I have on my wish list is obviously a Prusa Mark III. Now, why a Prusa? Because I don't have one. I don't have one of the Prusa printers. I've got my own clones. I've got Ender 3s. I've got other different printers. I don't have a Prusa. It would be nice to have one. I think more than anything else to say that I have a Prusa, but that is the one item on my list. Very high ticket item, but I gotta say there are other 3D printers out there much cheaper and can get you pretty good performance. And with that, we're going to talk about our second printer, which is going to be the Ender 3. Now, I own an Ender 3. I've owned an Ender 3 for quite a while now, and fabulous printer. It does the job that it's supposed to do. It's very economical. At the time that we're talking about this video here, I have on the website and in the links below an Ender 3 from Creality on Amazon for $214. Now, that's almost $200. It's a $15 off coupon at the time of this video coming out, so very economical, and that is in the price range that is less than some gaming systems. So if you were to get a PlayStation or the latest Xbox, we're talking this is a device, a tool that you could really have good educational value compared to, say, video games, and get so much more out of it. Of course, not for every child, but it is a very good printer, and I can say I would definitely recommend the Ender 3. So we've now talked about the Prusa, and we talked about the Ender 3. I can't say that I don't want a resin printer because I really, really do. So I've been looking at the resin printers for a little while now, and the one that I think is probably the good entry-level one that I have on my list is the Elegoo Mars. Now that one is only about $260, but it gets me entry-level into the resin printing, and I don't think that I have as big of a need than a lot of other people. A lot of people do models and they want to get into resin printing for those models. I want to get into resin printing just for experimentation. So for me, I didn't have a big budget, so the Elegoo Mars, only $260, that's on my list for this year. So those are the 3D printers that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to go ahead now and move on to the next high ticket item that I've got in here, which is going to be a CNC, and not a large scale CNC, but we're talking about 3018 Pro, and the one that I have is manufactured by SaneSmart. They also go by Jinamitsu. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but it's essentially a SaneSmart woodpecker version of a 3018 router. Now, it's very small, 300 by 180, but I've been able to upgrade mine, and I've been able to cut things like aluminum with it. I've put a trim router in it, so it's one of those things that you can upgrade, and like a 3D printer, you're not going to get bored with it because you're constantly making changes to it and upgrading it. So those run about $229. There is a coupon, and that's the Pro version. I bought this actually over the summer, and when I bought it over the summer, I had to buy the control panel separately. Now they've got that all packaged together, and they have it for $229 with that $20 off coupon direct from Amazon. Now, there's other places you can get this stuff cheaper. I'm going to keep reading off Amazon links and have all those below. If you buy any of these, it helps support the channel, but overall, I buy a lot of my stuff from Amazon, so those are where you're going to get all the links from. So that is going to be the other thing that we talk about is that 3018. I think it is a great tool for anybody's workshop. You can do wood. If a little bit of upgrade, you can do heavy-duty aluminum, but light aluminum, it's overall a great machine, and I'm very happy with it. Okay, so the last and probably one of the most expensive items on my big ticket items for this year is a laser engraving machine. So the makerspace that I am a member of in Rockford, Illinois, I'm a member of that makerspace. We have a very, very large laser cutter. It actually does 4x8 sheets, so it's a really, really nice unit. However, it's also a half hour away from my house. So one of the things that I would really, really like, and it's on my wish list, is I put on this year a 40-watt CO2 laser, and it is a K40 Style Laser engraver. It's not super awesome, but it is a step up from the ones that you see where they attach to your 3D printer. Having used a CO2 laser at the makerspace, I can say that they work fantastic. And to have one at about a $500 price point, and that's the one that I've linked in the description here. That $500 price point would get you a very entry-level K40 style machine. Now, it's got a little bit longer of a shipping time because these do come from China, but within a couple of weeks, you would be able to have your own K40 and do some laser engraving. I've got a good friend of mine that is just over the border in Wisconsin, and he has one of the K40 style machines, and it is fabulous. He turns out really great stuff all the time, and I've really wanted one. So the K40 clones or a K40 style laser engraver is definitely on my list for this year. Okay, so that is the end of our big ticket items. Now let's cover items that are under $100. This puts it in pretty much everyone's affordability range. So we're going to talk about a few items that I think for under $100 you can get something really, really nice for someone. The first one we're going to start off with, and this one is in my 3D printing farm. I've got this on several different printers, and this is basically a magnetic PEI print bed. You see other items like Wham Bam, all very similar. The Prush has now come with these as well. It is basically a PEI sheet and a magnetic base. They're flexible, your prints just pop right off. I had been using glass all the way up until a couple of months ago, and I finally said, well, I'll give it a try. There are some drawbacks to it. You don't want to necessarily print PETG on one of these, so it doesn't really do away with the need to have glass, but the nice thing about these is that they work really well for a lot of PLA prints, which is probably 90% of the prints that I print. So I definitely recommend one of these. I own several, and the link that I've got in the description is for the larger size, which this one's 310, I think, by 310. Now, the nice thing about this one is this fits my largest Core XY printer, but I've been able to buy them for the C201 printer that you've seen the video for. I've got one on that one, and then there are other ones. You can buy about 6 different sizes of these that fit most 3D printers. I totally recommend it if you're doing mostly PLA. If you get into the exotic filaments, you may still want to print on glass or a build-tack surface, but overall, I can't say anything bad about the PEI sheets. I would buy another one in a heartbeat. So let's talk about something on my wish list under $100. I've got on my wish list the Charm Labs Pixie 2 Robotics vision module. So it is basically a vision sensor. And the way that this vision sensor works, from my understanding, because I don't have one, it's on my wish list, and for basically $60, you get robot vision. It's got an Arduino module that you can easily interface with, so there's a library involved, and you should be able to, the demo that they show is someone throws a bunch of different colored balls in the air, and you're able to go ahead and identify all the different colored balls. I want to test out that technology. So on my list is a $60 Charmed Labs Pixie 2 Robotics vision sensor. And it looks very, very small, and it reminds me of the Kinect from the Xbox 360, but a more mature version in a very small package and sensor. So I want to build something that I can do some vision sensing with, and then once it does that vision, I'll 3D print the rest of the parts to do the rest of the things that I need it to do. So that's definitely on my list. Okay, so another item on my wish list is a benchtop power supply. I have got these power supplies everywhere in the basement. This one's even a repaired one. I replaced the component inside of it and got myself a repaired 24 volt 15 amp power supply. But these are everywhere, and they run 24, they run 12. I've got some 36 down here. The problem is that when I'm working on something small, I'm not able to just go ahead and plug it in and power it up. I've either got to use it 5 volt off a USB, or I've got to get one of these and set it up so that way I can have enough power to run whatever project. With the benchtop power supply that I've got listed, I should be able to do up to 30 volts and then 10 amps on that power supply. I can control the amperage and the voltage with it. And the other thing that I liked about it is it had a USB port. Some of the other ones I saw did not have that. This one really just tips the scales right at $99, but if you have a maker who does a lot of electronics work, they will thank you for this benchtop power supply. Okay, so the next one on my list is going to be a belt and disc sander. Now, this is really for woodworking or even a little bit of light metalworking, but you can also use it for 3D printing. Now, you may wonder why I want to get a disc or belt sander in comparison to, say, just using a rotary tool. Well, I'm going to cover that too. I have a rotary tool, and I've got a Tacklife. Both the belt disc sander and the rotary tool are in the description. I love them both. I love the rotary tool. It's great for getting into tight spaces. However, if I've got something a little bit larger, I do want to have the ability to put it on a disc sander or put it on a belt sander and have it stationary and have that something I can actually do a little bit larger woodworking with. So that's why I want to get one. Now, the other one, and this is something that most people don't think of, is that I want to do knife sharpening with it. They have a complete honing kit. Now, I like to cook, and when I'm cooking at home, the first thing that happens is all my knives tend to get dull, and I spend the first couple of minutes before I even start cooking sharpening knives. Well, this is something that I can put a razor sharp edge on my blades, and I have had this on my list for 2 years. So it's one of those things that a lot of makers use, but they don't really think to get for themselves because they are a little bit more expensive. You're probably talking about a good $80 to get a nice rotor or a nice sanding and belt sander and disc sander. To get that as one unit, that's going to cost you about $80. And a honing kit, probably another 30 or 40. But the nice thing about that is it's one of those things that get used all year long for all the different projects that they use. So a very good gift for any maker. And again, I've got one of these Tacklife ones. They're very inexpensive. So if you're looking at a good rotary tool for your maker, I can recommend this one. I've owned it for a couple of years now, and it is absolutely a fabulous tool. Okay, so our next item, under $100, we're going to cover something that maybe your wife might want you to get more than you do. A lot of people have 3D printers. A lot of people have 3D printers without silent stepper drivers. So one of the things I'm going to recommend is the SKR motherboard with the 2208 silent steppers. This is a kit now. It's basically all put together. Big Tree Tech sells this for around $52. The nice thing is that this fits in just about any 3D printer. depending on the brand that you have, but like most Ender 3s, I've upgraded every single printer to this board or another silent stepper board. I don't have any 3D printers anymore that make noise because they've got the old A4988s or the DRV drivers in them. They've got all silent steppers, and I can tell you, it makes a huge difference when you're working down in your shop or in your makerspace day after day. So cannot say enough, definitely get your maker one of these if they just haven't bought it already for themselves. So keeping with the electronics theme, there's two more things that I want to cover for your maker. Now, this one, most makers don't even know about this device, but I think it is just a wonderful device. I've got one here, and it is a Maker Focus Nextion Enhanced HMI Interface. Now, what is a Nextion Enhanced HMI Interface? So this is a 3-inch touchscreen interface, and the nice thing is that it has its own CPU on here. So a lot of times, maker projects, people go ahead and they buy a very small display, or they even get like an ESP8266 or ESP32, and it's got some of those displays that are on it. I own a couple here, and they work great. But if you want a project where you've got a little bit more to it, I definitely recommend one of these. This has its own programming library and its own programming language, but you can put full display bitmaps on there. You can use this as a sensor. It's got a built-in SD card on here. So you could take your regular Arduino or any other development board that you're using, and over the serial interface, so just the RX, the TX, and the ground line, and you program one of these, and that's all this needs. It communicates entirely over that serial port, and it has full color display, and you're able to do all sorts of things on here. I've seen some really, really unique things on here, and it's really great because it takes your basic project that maybe has just an Arduino in it, or a little ESP8266, and it now makes it look like a fully polished product. Now, these aren't cheap. They run about $35, but considering that you get a cell battery backup and you've got the SD card on here, all of those functionality to buy those separately are going to cost you way more than $35. So this is a really great project, and I definitely recommend getting one of those if your maker does a lot of electronics projects. Okay, so we covered our big ticket items, we covered our under $100 items. Now we're going to cover all the items under $25. These are great gifts that you can give just about anyone that is a maker and not break the bank. So the first thing we're going to kick it off with is 3D printing filament. If they're a 3D printer, I use the Overture. This is really one of the new brands that I'm seeing on Amazon. It runs like $13, $14. It's a great brand. I've printed, this is my second or third roll of it, and it has done some just absolutely wonderful prints. Now, Salutech, 3D Salutech, also another brand that I've used pretty extensively, and that one's worked pretty well. This one is really, really well done, wound very well, and it's a cheaper price than some of the, say, Salutech or Hatchbox PLA or PLA Plus. So definitely recommend it. Give it a shot for $15 or $14. It is easy to buy one reel and give it a shot. So I definitely recommend that. Now, if they are looking to get into exotic filaments, get them an exotic filament. I've got TPU here. This is a roll of SaneSmart. It's only 250 grams, but it is TPU, so it's a flexible filament. They run about $20. Get them an exotic filament, something they normally wouldn't buy themselves. If their 3D printer can support those type of filaments, it's a great way to get them an inexpensive gift and something they may not normally buy themselves. So the next thing I'm going to talk about I take pretty seriously, and that is a screwdriver. This is a metric bit driver, and you can see here I can go ahead and extend the size on it. It's got all sorts of different bits in here, and they're all metric bits. I think it's a great tool. However, I love this tool and I hate it. And the reason why I hate it is because every time I change a size, I have to change the bit. Now, the nice thing is I can just exchange any of those bits, but the problem is when you're assembling a 3D printer or a kit or anything like that, it becomes a real chore to switch those bits in and out, and then they get left wherever you last use them. They never get put back in that little container at the end of each individual use. So at the end of your project, you're looking around for all your bits so that way you can put them back in the case. So one of the items on my wish list is a metric screwdriver set, all of them where they have the handle. So I can just grab the right size bit driver and use that. So those are only $20, and I guarantee that your maker will love the fact that they don't have to switch the bit driver on their metric set. Okay, so next one we're going to cover is a multimeter. Now, this one hangs on my wall over here, and you constantly see it in my videos. My friend Nick, who you see on our videos from time to time, was using my old multimeter, and he said, "Rob, you got to get a new multimeter. There's no sound in here. I can't tell when we have a continuous signal." And I said, "All right, I'll go get a new multimeter." I had no idea how bad I had it until I bought this new meter. So for $25, I got this brand new meter, and it has non-conductive sensing, so I can just put it up next to an electrical outlet and it tells me whether it's live. It's got the same abilities my other one had. It auto ranges on me. So if I'm using 100 volts or I'm using 1 volt, it ranges the display automatically. I can't thank him enough for telling me that I needed to get a new multimeter. And the one I linked in the description is this exact same one, and I love it. I like the fact that the cords fit into the back, and I think it's a great multimeter. So if you don't have one, or your maker in your family wants one, get them this one. I think it's a great one. I would buy it again in a heartbeat. Okay, so our next one is going to seem a little odd, and that is a mini metric wrench set. Now, again, along with the bit driver, there are metric sets, and there's one right over there that you can use to ratchet off whatever size you need of your nozzle and whatnot. However, when you're putting together projects, there are a lot of times that you need to hold a bolt and ratchet something together. These work absolutely great. It's a fairly inexpensive gift. It's $15, but once you have these on hand, and it's just a small package of these, once you have these on hand, you will love it. They go all the way down to 4mm, so it holds some of the smallest bolts, but when you're putting projects together, it's absolutely must have. So your maker will definitely thank you for it. Okay, so the next one we're going to cover here is back to 3D printing. And this is a force-sensitive resistor, and this comes as a kit for Z-probe leveling of your 3D printer. Now, those of you that are familiar with CNC are very familiar with the small Z-axis leveling that you'll do on a CNC. You put the sensor in there and you lower down the Z-axis, and it hits that, and it tells you exactly where your Z-axis is. Now, those of you not into CNC often see other people level their 3D printer with paper or a business card, or get some other type of sensor. This has a real advantage in that it is extremely economical. These are only $13. The nice thing about these is that they fit, and they just have a little foam piece that hooks onto the end of your nozzle, and then you use this to probe your entire 3D printer bed. Now, your 3D printer bed should not lose its calibration print to print. If it does, there's other things that you need to fix with your printer. But I can tell you that I maybe level my 3D printer, the C201, I will maybe level that printer once a month, maybe twice a month if I'm doing a lot of 3D printing. So the nice thing is that I don't have to level it, and I get a very, very precise sense of where that Z-axis is and when it hits the bed, because it actually presses down on the sensor exactly where the nozzle is. So I think it's really great. I've used them now for a couple of different printers, and I'm now buying them for all my printers. Yes, there are definitely other ways to level your 3D bed. You can get an automated one. The ones that are non-conductive definitely work great, but for a very easy and economical solution, for only $13, I definitely recommend one of those. Okay, so when you want to connect a connector like this, you'll see a lot of times it's just bare wires, and you have to get a connector onto these to hook up to your 3D printer. Well, with that, you need one of these, a Ratchet Crimper tool. Now, Most people don't think to buy these for themselves, so it's a great gift for your maker. $22, and it comes with the connectors that go ahead and fit in here. You just put in the wire and the connector, crimp it down like this, and that's it. It's pretty easy. It is take a little bit of time and a practice to get these right, but once you do, you'll find that it's so much easier to crimp wires and get those connectors into place with one of these. Let's talk about one more thing under $20 that your maker is absolutely going to love, and that is a heat gun. If they don't have one, get them one. They will love this tool. And I'm going to show you the biggest use that I use this heat gun for. You warm up these little stickers right here that come on these cases, and you constantly have these stickers that won't come off, they won't move. You constantly have these stickers that won't come off. You warm them up a little bit, and then they peel right off. Now, I had my wife try to pull one of these off, and it took her a half hour, and it was full of residue. Heat gun took me the few seconds here that you saw, and it works absolutely great. Okay, so we're down to the stocking stuffer section. There are a lot of other items that I have on this list, so I definitely recommend that you go ahead and check out the blog link that's below. I listed a whole bunch of different items on there that go beyond what we've talked about here, and every single one of them you should check out. I think they're all great recommendations for your maker, and they're all on my list. So with that, we're going to go down to the stocking stuffers. Let's talk about a few things that you can put in a maker's stocking and they will love. Mini zip ties. I've got a whole package of these here. I love them. I use them for everything. 3D printers, you name it. Get different sizes. They only cost a few bucks. I've got a link to a huge package of 200 in the description. Let's talk about other things. 3D printer guys, files. Very, very small little files. Now, I picked this up for like $2 at the local big box store. You can go ahead and get these very inexpensively. Throw them in the stocking. They're great for trimming up or working on a very small area of a 3D print. So what else do makers need? Well, if you haven't got one already, I definitely recommend one of these. This is a shrink wrap kit. Now, these have all different sizes for connecting wire, and the various sizes make this great. This box will last quite a while unless they're doing a ton of electronics. Remember to check out that blog article. There's a lot of items that are on that list that didn't make the video. And remember, everything is either on my list or in my shop. And I'd like to hear what you've got on your list for this year. So make sure you put that in the comments. So with that, it's going to be the end of our video. Remember, like, share, and subscribe, and we will definitely see you next time.